Thick Saharan dust, but also some rain moves back into our area. Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather, and it's nice to see you on this Tuesday. Some big changes coming up for our area we'll get into, and of course the latest on your tropics as well. The first thing I want to mention is the heat is on through a lot of our area. Temperatures in Fahrenheit are going to be reaching the low to even some mid 90s in some areas, but you guys know that's only part of the factor. You factor in the humidity, and feels like temperatures in some spots well above 40 degrees Celsius, even to the 110, 112 degree Fahrenheit range. So if you are not tolerant to the heat, avoid the midday sun in so many areas. Several heat advisories are into play. You'll find all of that information at the bottom of your screen. We've got heat advisories, we've got marine warnings, we even had some flooding issues to get into as well. So we'll start off with this mix of dust and rain. And yes, some areas could actually get both at the same time. Here's the area that I'm talking about right now. Up in the Virgin Islands, portions of the Leeward Islands, and Puerto Rico is seeing a mixture of the Saharan air layer, but also some mid-level moisture producing the opportunity for a couple of showers. Now, at the mid-levels, the air is also somewhat dry. But if you notice on the visible satellite imagery, there's streaks of moisture coming in, producing some scattered showers. But that drier air getting down to the surface is pushing a lot of wind energy across these areas. I mean, we have widespread 30, 35, 40 mile an hour winds for today. St. Bart's has had an over 40 mile an hour wind. It's breezy. Antigua, Barbuda, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, San Juan on over towards Aguadilla. Your winds will stay out of the east, 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts from time to time. We have a small craft advisory that's now in effect for Antigua and Barbuda. And again, when you look at the atmosphere as a whole, the air is still very dry. So it's an interesting situation where you see the hazy sunshine, you might actually get a brief shower, and then you walk outside and on the roof of your home or the roof of your car or a building, you might actually see some wet dust on those surfaces dropping down from the atmosphere with that rain. It's just kind of the situation that we're in. Overall, the Saharan air takes over, if you will, but I can't rule out a couple of brief showers with these very strong winds. And if you're not seeing the Saharan air layer right now, you're going to get it. It's actually only going to get more concentrated in our eastern zones through the next 24 to 48 hours. And then that next plume of Saharan air moves off towards the west. It's going to impact all of the Caribbean and into Central America and Quintana Roo as we get towards the weekend. So we'll watch the progression of this Saharan air layer. Obviously, overall, it undercuts the opportunity for rain, but not fully, as again, some areas in the Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico are getting a mixture of both. Now we go back down to the Windward Islands for today, and the rest of the Lesser Antilles, Dominica South, moisture is a little bit more prominent for today. There's still only a few scattered showers in places like Dominica and Martinique for today, but when I bring back on the infrared satellite imagery, you'll see that tropical moisture beginning to lift to the north. Nice slug of moisture just south of TNT. If you look at the 5-day forecast on the bottom of your screen, I am expecting better rain chances for the Windward Islands in general. It is kicking up sea conditions, especially in the open waters of the Atlantic. We have a lot of swell advisories that are currently into play, so boaters be cautious of that. Of course, we'll look at your marine forecast coming up, but just a little bit healthier rain chance in these spots in the coming days, and you notice there's not as much wind. So the air is drier in the Leeward Islands and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico compared back down to the Windward Islands, and the difference is simply better rain chances and not as much of a concentration of Saharan air. Though again, there could be some hazy sunshine that far south. It's a breezy day across the ABC Islands, virtually no rain chance for the most part. An isolated passing shower is possible. We still continue to see the opportunity for some significant rain and wind over Panama and Costa Rica. The Central American gyre is getting more active again. We even have some thunderstorms developing in the northern sides of the Caribbean. Look for scattered rain for today for places like San Pedro Sula, La Ceiba, Roatan, Utila, Guanaja, Dangriga, on over towards Belize City, even inland areas like San Ignacio and Orange Walk. A few isolated showers could work their way up towards Cancun and Cozumel. And again, these areas, especially towards the Merida areas, very hot. A little bit of cloud coverage is helping things out, but again, feels like temperatures are going to be above 100 in these areas. So again, just make sure you're very cautious in the afternoon hours. We had some good rain yesterday over Jamaica. Some of that energy has moved off towards the west. That's where the axis of the tropical wave is going at this point in time. So I can see a few scattered showers developing over the Cayman Islands for today. It is a drier forecast for Jamaica overall. We could see a few showers eastern and southern coastlines, but just not as widespread. Notice there's very little lightning, if any, right now over the last 15 minutes. Again, a few thunderstorms could develop later in the afternoon hours. This is an area to monitor, and it's going to be portions of the Dominican Republic. You'll see down below there are some flood advisories, including the area of San Pedro de Macorís. We could see 2 to 3 inches of rain for today locally, and if it falls in some of the higher elevation, you're going to get that flash flooding in the lower elevation, so please be weather aware. This is very localized activity, and it's not going to be for all areas of the Dominican Republic, but there is the opportunity here for some pockets of significant rain, up to maybe 75 millimeters just for today. That could lead to some localized flooding. And again, the information on that is at the bottom of your screen. Another beautiful day across the Bahamas, back to Southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, where these areas, including Grand Turks, still under a Saharan air advisory, basically just respiratory sufferers, the hazy sunshine, obviously undercutting rain chances. A few more scattered showers could develop in the northern and northwest Bahamas, coming off of the east coast of Florida. You can see that flow, and a few thunderstorms are trying to develop at the hour there. What do you say we bring up the live radar data out of this area? I'll drop off the satellite data very briefly, and you can see a couple of isolated showers and storms northern sides of the Abacos over Walker's Key, but additional storms are developing right along the southeast Florida coastline from West Palm to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, the Upper Keys, Tavernier on over towards Key Largo, likely to get a few showers and storms, and these could push back off the coast. Bimini has a better chance for rain, say Andros and New Providence and Eleuthera, but the Abacos north and west will likely have at least a decent chance for a couple of showers and storms across the area. Now, the next big story for us here, I'll take out the 5-day forecast, is going to be this tropical wave train. We continue to see very active waves, and they're getting a little bit more organized. Not significant yet, but you can clearly see along the monsoon trough in the East Pacific to what's called the intertropical convergence zone in the low latitudes of the Atlantic Basin. Several tropical waves are beginning to develop there, and that is going to be our next situation. We've talked about the flooding problems in portions of the Dominican Republic. Let's get into this tropical wave train. So I'm going to go back out to the broad view, and I'm going to swing it back down to the Atlantic Basin. Now again, we'll start to see on this infrared satellite imagery a couple of the waves coming off of the West African coast looking just a little bit more organized, okay? It's something to monitor, not for potential development at this point in time, but just the fact that more moisture is coming back into play, and behind this next plume of Saharan air, expecting there to be a little bit more moisture that could carry across the basin and work its way into the eastern side of the Caribbean. It's a beautiful presentation on our high-resolution visible satellite imagery. You can see that broad spin with the most robust tropical wave that's just off the West African coast, but on the leading edge of that, if you guys can almost see right there, that's all that Saharan air layer, and it is still, I know it's still significant right now over the Eastern Caribbean, but that's that next part of the Saharan air layer that's going to be marching across our area, still undercutting some rain chances in some spots. So, keep that in mind as well. But this tropical wave train is still likely to continue to grow with a series of waves coming in. And just like the scattered showers and storms that we see back down in portions of the Windward Islands for today, we're likely to get better rain chances. Friends, as we move on to the rest of the forecast, take a quick second, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button for me. I do appreciate that. If you're getting anything out of these videos, please tell your friends, let them know that we're back, and I do appreciate all of that support. Gonna now throw on our marine outlook. So what you're going to notice with this is that we're going to continue to see some significant wind across the area, and I'm going to highlight that in a second. But when we take a look at what could be happening tropically over the next 7 days, I'm going to drop off the marine forecast real quick just to show you this. It's still a nice clean run from our models. I'm showing you the European ensemble members, but right now nothing is likely to develop through the weekend. That's on all the global models, the GFS AI, the European AI, the Google DeepMind. Everything looks good. Obviously, I keep an eye out on all those models. but this is a basically a composite, if you will, of them because they're all showing nothing. It's still interesting to note, and I showed you this yesterday, that as we get into the first week of July, the European ensembles do try and develop something right off of the eastern side of the United States. I think we're going to have a frontal boundary just come off the United States East Coast. We could get some genesis along that frontal boundary that could kick up. And again, it's, probably borderline to get a tropical or subtropical system. Temperatures are warming with the Gulf Stream waters here as we push into early July. It's a situation I'll be monitoring there. You notice that there is a little bit of a marker here. I don't expect anything to develop in the Atlantic Basin, but it is a sign that the waves are starting to get a bit stronger this time of the year coming off the West African coast. And of course, I'm closely monitoring the situation for you guys as well. So that is the eye in the tropics for us here. And again, at least over the next 7 days, things appear to be quiet. So let's get into the rain and the wind outlook. I want to start off with the winds. I'm going to bring back on our marine forecast. And the reason why I want to start off with the winds is in an El Nino, and we've talked about this a lot in the last several days, the situation here is that you just get a lot of wind that continues to kick up sea conditions, but it also, of course, provides a lot of shear in the atmosphere. So at this point in time, the Atlantic Basin, the Caribbean continue to be shut off from any kind of potential development, but our easterlies are going to stay in the 20, 25, even 30 knot range from time to time. The pinks get you above 25 knots. You get into the whites, when hopefully they pop back on the map here, down towards the ABC Islands, you're going to see some of that. Very significant winds are likely. They'll push farther off towards the west. Now, the winds will be a little bit lighter up through portions of the western side of the Atlantic Basin here. Give me just 1 second. I'm trying to get you guys those arrows back on. Sometimes I'm going to be a little bit finicky here. Let's see here. Come on, cooperate for me. There we go. All right, so we'll just use a snapshot. But you get the idea that the easterlies stay obviously going to kick up the sea conditions across portions of the Atlantic side of the Lesser Antilles, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Not a bad boarding forecast the next several days over the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Bermuda should start to pick up some stronger winds towards the weekend. Will large wave and strong wind advisories continue for Jamaica, small craft caution for Belize, and that wind energy is likely to just continue to shove its way into the Caribbean coastline of Central America coming up. I do want to highlight that the Pacific is beginning to get a little bit more active again, a couple of areas of interest, a new invest as well. That's one going to be Invest 94E. It's the 5th invest already of the East Pacific season. So something to monitor in the East Pacific, and you saw that on the European potential, it does have some development likely there in the East Pacific in the coming days. So let's get into our forecast as far as rain goes. Where am I expecting there to continue to be the opportunity for some heavier showers? First thing is going to be the Central American gyre will continue to be active. We could, from time to time throughout the next 5 days, get some flood advisories for places, especially Panama City up towards San Jose, Costa Rica. Scattered rain will become a little bit more significant along the Caribbean coastline of Nicaragua. That could spin into portions of Honduras. You do get as far north as the Bay Islands, and I'd love for my friends who are viewing us today in Utila, Roatan, Guanaja, let me know if you've caught some of these passing showers the last few days. That opportunity will stay in the scattered variety at least through Friday and Saturday. Rain chances will improve again for Belize City and Guatemala, potentially the southern sides of Quintana Roo. Get up towards Cancun and Cozumel, it's likely more about the heat than anything right now. They're still a little bit too dry there. Scattered showers should begin to return to the forecast for Jamaica. Again, we may not have a completely dry day in Jamaica over the next 5 days, but I don't expect us to see as much rain as we had yesterday, at least until the weekend. And even then, it could be spotty, heavier rain, but we could get some thunderstorms to return to produce some local heavy downpours, which again, for a lot of the island, not a bad situation as long as we can avoid the flooding. Scattered showers and storms for portions of Cuba and the Cayman Islands. Rain chances should begin to improve again in a slight fashion for most of the Bahamas. Once that Saharan air layer moves off towards the west, more moisture returns to the southeast sides of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. And again, you'll see in the 5-day forecast, trying to get some better rain chances there. Once again, I'll be monitoring the localized but significant rainfall flooding potential for portions of the Dominican Republic. Again, San Pedro de Macorís is one of those areas under the gun for today. And you can clearly see that the models are hinting at, despite the thick Saharan air layer through the Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, that scattered rain chances will be out there. That's not a bad thing because, again, heat has been a huge issue there. You'll see on these marine forecasts, again, especially like San Juan on the Atlantic side of things, seas could be a little bit more elevated from time to time. And Antigua and Barbuda, again, you guys are now under a small craft advisory with wave heights even building more as we get into tomorrow. What does the rainfall look like over the next 5 days for us here? We're still looking at southern areas with the best chance for some heavier showers and storms, portions of Central America as well. There's that next boundary coming off the United States East Coast, but most of that rain stays in the open waters. And again, at least the opportunity for some heavier rain from time to time back down to the Windward Islands. I'll show you that in perspective coming up in just a second. Significant wave heights. This is still the problem area. These are significant wave heights. And what I mean by that is you get to the yellows, you're now at 10-foot significant waves, okay? Maybe not a consistent 10-foot wave, but these are also not the peak as well. This is a good measure of the kind of wave situation if you get into the exposed waters you would expect. That's why the large wave and strong wind advisory continues for the offshore waters of Jamaica. We have a lot of marine advisories for the ABC Islands, for Panama, for Belize, and a lot of the Lesser Antilles as well. When we go back and look at the rainfall potential here, let me bring this up real quick for you guys. I just wanted to go back into, because I wasn't able to show you on that other map, how you can clearly see that rainfall totals will be decent in most of the Windward Islands, but higher in TNT, hoping places like Port of Spain will get into some better rain chances coming up. This could lead to at least a ½ inch to an inch of rain on a daily basis in some locations. And I think that rain chance just continues to build as we go through the rest of the week. Friends, I'm out of time. I do appreciate you making Meteo Mundo a part of your daily routine. You got a question about the forecast, let me know in the comments section below. For those dealing with the heat, wish you the best. For those that are dealing with some of the heavier rains, make sure you stay weather aware and avoid those flood waters. Tropics look quiet in the short term, but those tropical waves are getting more active. And I've got your latest forecast coming up tomorrow. Thanks again for liking and subscribing. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, take care.